Game.
He wins it with an ace. Agassi is the new Ford Australian Open champion.
So it's Venus v Serena. Sister v sister. And Serena smashes Stevie's record. It's number 23.
King of playing.
Nadal. What a contest. Roger Federer, 37 years of age. He's into his 12th Wimbledon final. And that's it. On a massive miss hit. Wimbledon number 5 for the Serbian superstar. Get up, go. You just won the US Open.
This is Cross the Line, WFUV's one and only tennis podcast. Stick with us for all things ATP, WTA, and more from the tour, including our US Open coverage on WFUV Sports.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the first episode of Cross the Line, WFUV Sports' first tennis podcast. Today, I am joined by Gabby Price and Grace McCarron to talk about all things tennis. So, how is everyone feeling today?
I'm very excited to be here. I've been looking forward to this podcast for a while. I was honestly surprised that FUV did not already have a tennis podcast, given how big and international tennis as a sport is, and being so close to the US Open. Feels like this has been a long time coming. So I'm very happy that we're here today and that it's with you guys. It should be really fun, and I'm really excited to see where we take this.
Yeah, I'm really excited. I love tennis, watched a lot of tennis over my lifetime. So it's really nice to finally have an outlet to talk about it, especially since it's a little bit more of a niche sport, I feel like, around here. So I'm excited. I'm excited to be joined by you guys. It's going to be a fun first episode.
Definitely. I feel like this is the perfect crew. It's funny how we've talked about tennis, I feel like, at the station for so long, and finally we have, this official platform to really just have fun conversations about the sport we love. So I think it's going to be great. Well, we have a lot of topics to cover today. Although there are no majors necessarily taking place right now, we do have some ATP 500s and ATP 1000s, in addition to some major predictions with the French Open coming up in a little over a month. So to start off, I think maybe we should talk about the Madrid Open. It took place on April 21st and concluded May 4th in Madrid, Spain. It is one of the ATP's classic 1000 tournaments and had an exciting finish. On the men's side of the draw, Casper Ruud defeated Jack Draper. And on the women's side, Aryna Sabalenka defeated Coco Gauff. I think I can say on behalf of all of us, our favorite female American tennis player. So why don't we dive in to the men's side? Ruud's win over Jack Draper, definitely a tough match. What were your guys' thoughts about that?
Yeah, Ruud has kind of become one of my favorite players on the men's side. So this was awesome to see him win. Especially for the biggest win of his career. I thought this was really exciting and a really great place for him to do it in Madrid. I'm starting to kind of jump on the Jack Draper train. I think that we're going to get into that later. I'm not all the way on board though, so I definitely love seeing Ruud win. And before we keep moving, I was going to go to the Madrid Open, and I am so upset that it didn't happen. I need to tell this story because I was so upset at the time. So I was, as you guys know, I was abroad this past spring, and so I was in Europe when the tournament was happening. It was my last week. I didn't have finals. I was like, I'm going to Madrid. I'm going to the Madrid Open. I get to the airport, and it was the day that, I don't know if you guys saw these new headlines, but there was a massive Madrid, power outage between Portugal, France, and Spain. It happened on the day that my flight was. I was going to the next day, so I didn't end up going for obvious reasons. I physically could not get there, and it kind of all looked like a mess. But Yeah, so I was supposed to go, and Iga and Dimitrov and whatever other people were playing when I was
God.
supposed to go, and I'm not salty about it at all, if you can't tell. Um, but yeah, no, it's such a fun tournament to watch, and I'll definitely get there one day. It just wasn't my year this year. Um, but yeah, I love that Rude won this tournament this year, and I think it puts him in a really good place looking ahead at the French Open as well. I think this was a really good confidence builder for him for the rest of this season, especially the clay court season.
Yeah, I love this for Casper Ruud. He's been to three slam finals, hasn't won any of them, and he's kind of talked about how that's affected him mentally. Like he feels like I read something yesterday where he said he feels like he's in like a hamster wheel and he can like never get out of this rut that he's in. Which I think is probably a more common feeling amongst tennis players and athletes as a whole than we think it is. But for this to be like the biggest win of his career, as you said, Gabby, I think it puts him in a really great place for the French Open, and I'm really happy to see him succeed like this. And I think it's like really admirable that he's opened up about his mental health, especially in as a tennis player, because I've always felt like tennis is a little bit buttoned up about like the more personal sides, a very like proper sport and all of that, very traditional. So I'm super happy for him, and I hope he can keep going on this path that he's on.
No, definitely. I agree with you both. I think this is his sort of breakthrough moment that we've been waiting for. I mean, of course, he's been to so many finals. I remember watching him in 2022 face Alcaraz at the US Open. And of course, I'm the biggest Alcaraz fan ever, but I definitely had some sympathy for him because you can tell that he has everything. He has this amazing forehand, I think one of the best on tour. And he's just not getting these victories that I think he deserves. So I'm definitely glad to see him win. Although I am now such a Jack Draper fan. My mom sort of got me on Team Jack Draper when we were watching the Miami Open because he was incredible there. Uh, and wow. And I saw him actually at the US Open in 2024 with WFUV Sports, and he was fantastic. So I definitely am Team Jack Draper. I don't know how to feel. I don't know if he's necessarily my favorite on the men's side, but I think that he is one of the best male tennis players from Great Britain since Andy Murray, and I see some parallels and similarities between those two players. So I think there's an exciting future with him. But what do you guys think?
Yeah, I mean, I think I'll agree with you. He's not one of my favorites on the men's side, but I do really respect his game. I thought he put up a great match against Rude as well. Obviously taking that to three. I think he's also been a really good addition to the tour in general. The past couple of years, he's very physical. Obviously, just a big build. So. I think his game is really interesting on the tour, especially when he's starting to play these top 10, top five players, kind of showing how he brings is different than some of the other people. And also seeing another really good player from Great Britain, from England, is very cool to see, as you mentioned, Mary. There haven't been too many of those since Andy Murray. So it's definitely very interesting. I'm kind of curious how he's going to be doing the rest. I just don't think clay is his surface necessarily. So come Wimbledon, I think he's going to be really fun to watch, especially in England. I think he'll make a lot of noise there, especially just being the crowd favorite and such. But yeah, he's definitely very interesting to watch, and I'm very interested to see what he does the rest of the season.
Yeah, I kind of like how Draper's bringing a bit of a spotlight back to British men's tennis. We haven't had that, as you guys were saying, since Andy Murray. Like, I remember Cam Norrie a few years ago kind of made some noise, but he never really got there to the same. I mean, it's hard to get to where Andy Murray was because he was beloved and he still is, but hopefully Draper can, and he's only 23. He made the semifinals at the US Open last year, and then he made the fourth round at this year's Australian Open. So he's on a good trajectory, and I think Gabby, as you said, like clay, is probably not going to end up being his best surface just because like traditionally for British players, it's I would guess that grass is their best surface. It's more like from for players from Spain and like that part of Europe who go on to become great clay courters. So I would like to see where he goes. And on the hard courts as well. He's already proven that he can make it deep into the one of the hard court slams. So I'm interested to see where like the second half of this year, especially. But who knows? He could also be great at the French Open. There's always like those players who are randomly really good on all surfaces. So you never know.
Especially come a slam, you'd never know it till it's
Yeah.
Totally. I feel like this is kind of a side note, but one of the best things I think about a Grand Slam or just any major is the fact that people really shine. I feel like underdogs always come through no matter what surface. We have some new tennis star rise, which is one of my favorite parts. So I'm definitely excited that we're going to talk about the French Open, our predictions in a little bit. But before that, let's circle back to something we mentioned earlier, Sabalenka's victory over Coco Gauff. As I said, Gauff is one of our favorite tennis players from the United States. Arina Sabalenka defeated Coco Gauff in the 2025 Madrid Open, winning her third title in the event. The score was 6-3, 7-6, with a tiebreak score of 7-3. Sabalenka also made history, tying with Petra Kvitova, her record for most Madrid Open titles ever won. So Sabalenka has been a dominant force on tour and has secured another 1,000 victory. I was disappointed because I love Goff, but I'm also a big fan of Sabalenka. She, of course, is one of the best female tennis players on tour. So I'm curious what your guys' thoughts are about this win.
Yeah, I agree with you. I don't think that this Sabalenka's win was surprising necessarily. I wouldn't say I was happy about it. Obviously, I am a huge Goga fan, so I want to see her succeed. But I do think that Sabalenka is one of those players where when she's on her game, and it's very hard to stop her, no matter how well Coco is playing. And Coco had a great tournament. That was one of the things I wanted to say. She might have fell to Sabalenka in this tournament, but she had a tough path to get to that final, beating Iga in the semis. So I don't think this loss is a bad thing for Coco at all per se. I think Sabalenka might just have the upper hand a little bit on clay too. Clay historically has not been Coco's best surface either. Something just to keep in mind. But also, I think this is a really good tournament to see that she's getting better on clay. So another positive thing to kind of look ahead in a couple weeks at the French Open. But for Sabalenka, very impressive, making history. Like it's so cool, and what a place to do it in Madrid.
Yeah, one thing I was looking at the stats for the final. One thing I noticed, 8 double faults for Coco Gauff and then 2 for Sabalenka. Definitely not, I don't know if it was like nerves or something like that. Definitely not what you want to see from Coco Gauff. She's usually very what's the like measured in her play. She doesn't I don't really think in what I've seen from her, she's made a lot of mistakes like that and she's still very young. So she has a lot in front of her. Again, not really surprising to me that Sabalenka won this one. Sabalenka has 3 majors. Like, it's really not surprising at all at this point. When she beats anybody, she's capable of beating anybody. She's the number one player in the world. So awesome that she made Madrid Open history as well. I love watching Sabalenka play too, but Coco Gauff is gonna be fine. We'll talk about it, but she's one of my favorites to win the French Open for sure.
No, I completely agree. I I was disappointed because actually maybe disappointed's the wrong word. But since Coco's victory at the US Open, I think we haven't seen her shine or play at the same level that she had played. I don't, like you said, Gabby, I don't know if it's nerves. Um, I don't know what maybe it could be, but I think that there's now an insurmountable, or maybe not insurmountable, but just extreme sense of pressure put on her for all of her success at such a young age. But I think she's powering through that, she's shining, she's playing incredible tennis. So I think it's only up from here. But I definitely think the pressure must be very intense, considering, how she's been playing. But of course, the best, in my opinion, love her. So I'm looking forward to seeing, how she plays at the French Open and in the Italian Open. That is taking place right now at the Forco Italico in Rome, Italy. It's played on clay courts and is one of the classic ATP and WTA 1000 events on the tour. Right now, the tournament is in full swing, and players are certainly rising from the ashes. We recently had a victory from Zhang Quan, who defeated Arina Sabalenka in a remarkable run, making the finals, and causing Sabalenka to receive a few code violations for her erratic behavior on the court. On the men's side, we have dominant forces such as Jannik Sinner and Tommy Paul, along with Carlos Alcaraz and Lorenzo Musetti. So I'm curious what your guys' thoughts are about the tournament so far, if you have any predictions for our champion, and if you saw any surprising losses.
I mean, first we were just talking about Sabalenka a little bit, how she's so consistent, dominant when she's on the court. She just lost to Zhang with like crazy. That's also one of the most fun things about tennis. Zhang is an 8 seed in this tournament. Sabalenka's number 1. Fell in straight sets, and it was a good match. It wasn't a great match for her. She, like you said, Mary, she got very frustrated and leading to some of those violations. But so, yeah, very interesting result there. On the men's side, it's Tommy Paul has been such a standout for me in this tournament. I love him as well as a player. I think when he's good, I think he's another one that's so consistent and really fun to watch. His matchup against Sinner will be very tough. I think we also saw that when Sinner played Ruud. When Sinner is playing, he is so tough to beat. And Ruud, as we were talking about, is again such a good player on tour that this will be a very tough matchup, especially for a semis. But it should be really fun. I think Sinner definitely has the upper hand here, even being out for 3 months, which is still kind of insane that he's number 1 in the world after not playing for so long in no tournaments. But goes to show just how good he is in these tournaments, in pressure situations. And then, of course, Carlos is playing right now, actually. So hopefully he can pull through in that match, get himself back to the finals in Rome.
Yeah, overall for Sabalenka, I feel like the Italian Open was like not her best tournament. She needed 3 sets against Sofia Kenin, who's the 31st seed, and then she took it to a tiebreak in her round of 16 match, and then she just lost the other day. So I don't know. I mean, maybe that's probably a fluke. We were just saying how good she is. Everybody has their tournaments, but like we talked about the code violations, not really something you want to see from her, but that was interesting to me, especially coming off the win in Madrid. But for the men, one thing I want to highlight, 2 Italian men in the semifinals of the Italian Open is pretty awesome. In Jannik Sinner and Lorenzo Musetti, who Musetti randomly, this is kind of a sidebar, but a few years ago, I think it was the French Open, he was playing Djokovic and he like took 2 sets off of Djokovic. And this is when nobody knew who Musetti was. So I've been like a fan of him since then because that was such a fun match. Djokovic ended up winning, but not really a surprise there. But yeah, so I'm really glad to see him like succeeding like this, especially in his home country. Like that's really cool. Um, and then yeah, Jannik Sinner's return. Obviously, I think there's a little bit of added juice to his return. He's probably not very happy about the 3 months suspension. He defeated Casper Ruud pretty easily yesterday, 6-love, 6-1. Um, and this is as we said about Ruud, a really good clay court player who's been to 2 French Open finals, and he just won in Madrid as well. So that was fascinating that he got rid of him so quickly. And he also, like as I said about the suspension, he's coming off of winning Australia a few months ago before he served his suspension. I think there's a little added juice going into the French Open as well because like for I think we kind of touched on it earlier, but for Italians and like that region of Europe, like clay is kind of their surface. So I think he probably wants to prove like, hey, this can be my surface. And coming off of a huge win over a great clay court player in Casper Ruud, that's he's probably going to be sailing. I think this is his tournament to lose at this, not the French Open, the Italian Open. We'll see about the French Open.
I could not believe when I saw the score of Rude and Sinner, I actually like audibly gasped. I I go, this guy, he is just like nobody is at his level. He
Yeah.
is so good. Like there is nobody on this tour that I think can beat him like more than once or consistently whatsoever. He is so good. And I think something that I read in The Athletic is that he utilized these 3 months to just focus on his game. Like that is all he did.
Yeah.
He didn't have to play any matches. He just focused on cardio. He focused on footwork, really just mastering and tweaking so many different elements of his game. So I think honestly, the suspension like just helped him
Mhm.
drastically. And I mean, he proved in the US Open, the last major that he played before this suspension, that the pressure doesn't get to him. He won the whole tournament when all of the press was about his scandal. Like he is unstoppable, and I'm gonna say something controversial. I think that he will be the next Roger Federer, which is crazy.
Wow.
Not,
Wow.
not to the same level, but I think in our little generation, he will be that figure. Of course, he's never going to be the king of tennis and my personal hero, that is Roger Federer. But I think the consistency to just the quality of his tennis is up there. But I don't know. I don't know if that's too controversial, considering he is somebody that broke the rules. So I don't know about
Yeah, that's what I was just about to say. I feel like part of when you think Roger Federer, you think like classic, all white, like
Mhm.
tennis superstar, like so nice, so friendly, like so respectful. After this policy, I think, or his suspension, I don't know if Sinner can get maybe that reputation. But I do see your comparison like on the court wise. But I also feel like he's just making his own path in some extent. I would almost compare him a little bit more to Djokovic, and maybe have Carlos be more of a Federer.
Yes, wait,
Um,
that's so much better. Yes.
because I think I don't know, that's just their rise to popularity to me feels a little bit more that way. But yeah, I don't know. Who knows? Can you even compare any of them to those OG guys? So
True. Maybe I'm just stuck in the past because I feel like the best. No, but I saw a TikTok and it was like, your childhood consisted of like the best generation of tennis. And it's true. Like when it
Yeah.
when we saw Nadal, Djokovic, and Federer, when they were dominating
and
tennis,
Serena at the
and,
same time.
and Serena on the women's side, and
Mhm.
Sharapova, like, oh my
Yeah.
God.
Yeah,
And we saw like the best rivalries too. Like,
so
I mean,
good.
it's hard for us. I feel like it's tough to call Serena and Sharapova a rivalry just because Serena was
Oh,
so
she's the best.
like miles better. Like, I'm sorry, Sharapova. I actually did enjoy watching her play too, but like Serena was miles away from anybody else at her peak. But like Roger, Rafa, and Djokovic, when they were all good at the same time, like anybody could win any of those slams, and you just didn't know going in. Like there, unless it was like, I mean, the French Open was almost always going to be Nadal, but like that was kind of the beauty of our generation. I mean, we don't really have that as much. We have a lot of really exciting players, though. I always thought of Alcaraz. Maybe it's because they're both from Spain, but like I always thought of him a little bit as like the next Rafa. He kind of has the same demeanor. Um, he's already like he won the French Open last year. He has four slams already, and he's 22, which is kind of terrifying to everybody else. Like, so that's kind of the vibe I always got. I think they also like have some kind of friendship too, which is really cool. But that's kind of I don't know who I would compare to Federer these days, but like Carlos and Rafa was kind of always like right there for
Yeah.
me. I think they call him like the Prince of Clay, and
Yes, you're right. You're right. Carlos is very Nadal. And as soon as I said, I was like, yeah, no, that's true. I will say though, just to bounce off of you, Grace, like I think you can kind of still you go into a tournament, you don't know which one of the top three seeds are going to win. I do think you see that a little bit still today, except I think you see it more like any of the one like Sinner, Carlos, and oh my god, who's three? Sinner, Alcaraz, whatever, either of those guys. That's like there's going to be more variation in winning between the top three, maybe four seeds than there is going to be between 5 and 10. Like
Yeah.
the talent discrepancy within the top 10 is fascinating because you have I think Fritz and Draper at 4 and 5 right now, and you have Alcaraz or Sinner at 1. Like you have Sinner Alcaraz at like 1 and 2. So it's really interesting to look at because when you have Fritz play Alcaraz, like it's kind of a given Alcaraz probably is going to win that match, or he's going to be the heavy favorite to win. But those are still your top 5 seeds. So I think still kind of even looking Rome or French Open, the rest of the season, Wimbledon, US Open, it's just very interesting how the rankings are working out and how the seeding works because it's not what I would expect, I don't think.
Yeah, and this isn't even like just one last point on this. Like, we didn't even mention like Zverev or
Yeah.
Tsitsipas or like those kind of guys who have been
Yeah.
around a little bit longer. Like they were around at the tail end of like Federer and Nadal's careers. So they've been around. They aren't really like I don't really consider them anymore like the next generation. They kind of have their generation already, and like Alcaraz, Sinner, like they're the next ones. But like they're always still around. Like Zverev has been in a couple of finals.
Mhm.
Tsitsipas has been in at least one as well. So
Yeah.
they're always lingering. I think there's a lot of like parity these days on the men's side. There's just a lot more like top players. And like when we had Roger, Rafa, and Djokovic all at the same time, like those are like three of the greatest players of all time, and then it's kind of like everybody else.
Yeah.
Even like Andy Murray, like when it was the big four, and I loved Andy Murray, but Andy Murray wasn't really comparable to those three. Like, love him, but it was kind of like the big three, and then oh, Andy Murray too, and then everybody else on the tour. So that's no disrespect to anybody else on the tour. It's just like how it was, and I feel like that's kind of gone away. Djokovic just kind of had a weird. He's kind of in a weird place right now, but I think there's a lot more top heavy. There's a lot more parity, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
Oh, definitely. I think it's unfortunate. I mean, tennis is so exciting right now, but I don't know if we'll ever be at that level of greatness with those amazing players. Another person I thought of quickly is Andy Roddick. Like the fact that people even bring Andy into the conversation, I'm like, Andy Roddick was just somebody that the top 3 guys beat all the time. Like
Except for that one US Open, and then like that was it. It was so sad.
Like, see, I forgot he even won the US Open. So
And I know on Andy Roderick, sorry, he is a great tennis podcast that if you guys are interested, give that one a listen. It's called Served with Andy Roderick. Very interesting. Just wanted to plug that for him.
Wow, I didn't know he had a podcast. I definitely want to listen.
He's also a great Twitter follow. Like when the slams are going on, his Twitter is so good because he just comments on like every single player, even the ones that nobody's ever heard of. He's like, "Oh, this guy's got a really great serve," and I'm like, "So true."
So true.
Wow. Well, that's great. I love when a tennis player who's retired comes back and reports or just keeps engaged with the tennis community because their insights are, the most valuable, I think. Wow, that is very cool. Well, for the sake of time, we are going to segue to another topic focused on Jannik Sinner. This week, he met Pope Leo XIV at the Vatican with the president of the Italian Tennis Federation. Surprising news to me, definitely. Pope Leo revealed he is a big tennis fan and a player himself. He wished Jannik luck at the Open and showed the world his love of tennis. So I think it's very cool to see the scope to which tennis has reached. I'm curious what your guys' thoughts are on this meetup.
Yeah, this was fascinating. I did not expect this at all either. But what a Pope to be a tennis fan. What a time for tennis.
Yeah.
I think that's a win, no matter if you're religious, what religion you are. A win is a win for a tennis fan. So this was very funny to see. And then I don't know if you guys saw the clip where Sinner brought him a ball and a racket, of course, and he was like, maybe a volley. I think this was all going on in Italian, but whatever I was reading was
Yeah.
translated. And the Pope looked around and there was like a room full of antiques and he was like, not in here.
Wait, I didn't see that.
Yeah, that was funny. My mom told me actually that the Pope like loves playing tennis himself. Like I guess they have tennis courts at the Vatican that
I heard that too.
yeah, that haven't like I guess Pope Francis didn't play tennis. Like they haven't been used for a long time. So now the people who work at the Vatican who like keep things running and where the like they keep the quarters of the Pope's living like put together and stuff. They're like, oh, we have to get the tennis courts ready because I guess he's going to be playing tennis. So that's kind of fun. Yeah, I love that this Pope is like this. I mean, not this might sound bad, but like I love that he's kind of like in tune with this kind of stuff. Like he's this is mixing sports right here, but he's a White Sox fan. Like there's pictures of him at the World Series. Like it's just really fun. And now he's met Jannik Sinner, who's like one of the best tennis players in the world. I'm like, this is fun.
So fun.
Yeah.
Side quest.
Yeah.
I wonder if he would be interested in meeting with any American tennis players. I'm curious if anyone else will pay him a visit. I know that it was, of course, Yannick being in Italy, and it being the Italian Open, but I'm curious if we could see him maybe at a tennis match in the future. I wonder how protocol works for that. But just exciting to see such an influential figure expressing their love for the sport that we love. So very exciting. Okay, so I guess we will move on over to our last topic of the podcast, the French Open. It's been definitely a common thread through all of our discussions on this episode, also known as Roland Garros. The tournament will take place from May 25th to June 8th. Uh, I'm curious what your guys' thoughts are for the tournament. I know we have a little bit of time and we need to see the results of the Italian Open, maybe to make a more formal prediction. But does anyone sort of stand out in your minds?
Grace said I was going to bring up Musetti for this one. So that was good that you brought that up before. I think he's someone that can make a good run in this tournament, obviously, with already the guys that we were talking about, Sinner, Alcaraz, Zverev. I think in terms of underdogs, I think Rude is going to go into this a little bit of an underdog. I think he will do well, but in terms of winning, getting himself to the finals, a little bit that way. And then just classic French Open, I do think any American is also a little bit of an underdog, just for the fact that most Americans aren't that good on clay, not to like generalize, but I think Tommy Paul is someone to watch. Draper, of course, we mentioned is someone to watch. And then also, at least right now, Djokovic, I don't know what's going on with him. Hopefully he kind of finds his groove again this week in the tournament that he's playing. And then I really haven't been caught up with Ben Shelton at all. But I don't know how this tournament will go for him either. I think he'll definitely get better into the later end of this 2025 season. But that's kind of my thoughts on the men's side right now.
Yeah, my pick for the men is gonna be Sinner just because we saw how he like dismantled Casper Ruud the other day, but my other thought behind him is definitely Alcaraz. Even though he struggled a little bit in Monte Carlo and the Barcelona, which is a 500 tournament, but he's playing Musetti, I think today, I think right now actually. But he won the title last year. You can't really count this guy out. We talked about how consistent he's been. Actually, like on all surfaces, he's been consistent. But so those would be my two. And then for actually, wait, Mary, do you want to say your men before we
Oh,
go?
before women? Okay, that's smart. For me, I'm gonna agree. Sinner is my pick. But if not him, I would say Alex de Minaur. I think he would be my underdog. Ranked number 8 from Australia. He's going to get far. in my opinion. He always makes quarterfinals or semis of majors. He's, been on tour for years now, but finally has this consistency that I think is needed for his success. And I got to meet him at the US Open, and he was awesome. He's engaged to Katie Bolter from Great Britain.
I didn't know that. Oh
I
my God, that's
know.
so cute.
And they were two of the kindest people ever. So humble, so cool, and such great players. I think they deserve some more victories. So I'm gonna go Sinner, but then Demon Hour, potentially Far. But Grace, what did you think about the women's side? Do you want to start us off?
Okay, for the women's side, my pick is Coco because my main thing is for Clay, for other women, is like, can you get past Iga? And she just did that recently. So I'm not like she just did in Madrid 6-1, 6-1 in the semis, so a pretty dominant win from Coco. Now, obviously, like it might be totally different in the French Open, but if she can get past Iga, I think that's really a sign that she is like ready to be one of the top players on clay. And she's been close to the top on clay in the past. She's been to a French Open final before, where I believe she actually lost to Iga a couple years ago. So that would be my pick. Also my picking with my heart a little bit there because I love Coco. But you can't ever count out Iga, but she's gonna have a lot of tough players to face as well. She struggled a little bit at the Italian Open. She lost in the second round, which was a big upset from Danielle Collins. But possible sneak pick for me, Jasmine Paolini, who just reached the final of the Italian Open, first Italian woman to reach the Italian Open singles final since her doubles partner Sarah Irani did in 2014. So it's been 11 years. So that's pretty cool. That's also kind of picking with my heart. I don't know if she's actually going to be able to win the French Open. That's kind of a lot. She's never won a major before. Or actually, no, I'm sorry. I think she won Wimbledon. Or she was in the final.
She was in the final. Wasn't she in back to back? Was she in
Wait.
back to back French Wimby finals or French
Yes, that
US
is.
Open?
Yeah, she was in the French Open and Wimbledon finals last year. But besides that, so she's been close to the top before. So I'm gonna have her as my sneak pick, but overall, I'm gonna go Coco Gauff 10-2 on clay and clay matches this year. So that's my
Wow, that's a great record. I think Coco's definitely a good one. I do think Iga could be a bit on a revenge tour here, or just like kind of playing for her pride. Obviously, these smaller tournaments haven't all been going her way. So I think maybe come time for a slam, this is an environment that she knows really well and has been in countless of times and have been successful in. So I think this is the type of environment that Iga does thrive in. That being said, I think throw Sabalenka into that mix too. I think she'll be playing for blood, for lack of a better word. But yeah, so those three I think all can make really good runs. But then I think maybe sneaky pick. I think Paolini's a really good one. But I think Andreeva too, super young, kind of isn't making a name for herself for these past couple tournaments, and she's only been getting better. And she's kind of, I don't know, she's kind of still like sliding under the radar a little bit. So I'm wondering, if she's going to continue that subtle climb in the French, but maybe more on grass and everything, like we've been saying. She's from that side of Europe, but yeah, so she's another sneaky pick that I have. As for winning, I do think I'm gonna lean towards Sabalenka or Iga though.
I love that you said Andreeva. I forgot about her. She was amazing at Indian Wells, defeated Sabalenka in three sets,
Ooh,
6-2,
true.
4-6, 6-3. So she definitely is a force to be reckoned with. And the fact that she's so young, I think just totally exemplifies how much of a star she truly is. I was going to say Iga because I loved that term revenge tour. I think that's perfect, especially because of her suspension back in November. She definitely has been dealing with some adversity and she had her own little doping scandal. So I think she's trying to come back and sort of make a name for herself again or sort of clean her reputation. But I think I'm going to go with Andreeva now that you said that. I love her.
Yeah. I think it's going to be tougher to win just even because she doesn't have that much experience in those higher stages of the tournament. But I do think that she, on her good days, like she's talented enough, like you said, to beat Iga or to beat any of these higher players. But that being said, she also has fell to Coco, I think, every time that she's seen Coco.
Really? Wow.
Yeah, or they just played in Rome a couple days ago and Coco beat her in straight sets. And then I think they played another time before that as well. So kind of interesting that she can't put up a great fight against Coco. I don't think it was a super competitive match to an extent. But definitely one to watch for sure.
Definitely. Well, that concludes our first episode of Cross the Line. I'm Mary Hawthorn here with Gabby Price and Grace McCarron. This is a production of WFUV Sports.